The year is 2016. The world of cinema is dominated by the superhero genre. DC begin their universe to compete with Marvel. Well, not with that shit you want. The race between Marvel and DC is just like the hare and the tortoise, except the hare actually wins. As Marvel launched their third phase of the universe, their previous phases have generated a total of $9 billion worldwide, enough to buy me a house. From this point onwards, I expect big things from Marvel. The characters have been developed through multiple films which will surely get me more invested into this pyramid scheme, cinematic universe. Now, because Marvel have a lot more money to splash, Phase 3 has 11 films in stock, which means I couldn't talk about all their glorious movies in one video. What I'm trying to say is I'm lazy. Captain America, Civil War. This is what we want to see. Superheroes versus superheroes. Take note, DC. Oh wait, I see you've done the same. But these guys really ran out of villains to face? What is going on here? So this movie is based on the Civil War comics, which was a commercial success when it was released in 2007. However, the story received mixed reviews from critics because ultimately the premise is kinda stupid. So the movie is clearly different from the comics because Fox still owned Fantastic Four and the X-Men. When Crossbones attempts to blow himself up with the intention of killing Captain America with him, Scarlet Witch diverts the explosion but ends up killing hundreds of people in the buildings. This didn't make much sense. She could have easily just maneuvered in literally anywhere else that didn't contain civilians. This Ross guy comes back and complains how the Avengers kill more people during their battles than actually saving them. He's got a point, to be fair. They should all really be locked in jail for a good amount of time, or you're just going to make them sign a contract. Well, okay, that's probably the worst possibility, but I'll give you a pass. They are all forced to pick a side, Confederate or Union. The politics in this film is not the reason you came to watch this film, it's the action. And it delivers just like The Winter Soldier. In fact, even better perhaps.
Stay down. Final warning. I could do this all day.
There are a lot of locations in this film and it's never felt more in your face to a point where it became annoying. Why are they in a German airport? Do they have a sponsor or something? This made me realise who the real heroes are. Not Captain America, not Iron Man, especially not this guy. In fact, none of the Avengers. It's the people who helped rescue and rehabilitate the innocent civilians out of destruction caused by the Avengers. And what are the Avengers doing? Causing destruction over an airport that's done nothing to deserve such a punishment?
Guess you had a point. Yeah.
Can't they just fight in a field?
That man has no regard for lawn maintenance.
Oh, how ironic is that? So Baron Zemo is the main villain. His motives are logical, but his scenes are just the worst.
My name is Zemo. I will repeat my question. Mission report, December 16.
Spiderman and Black Panther make their debuts in the Marvel Universe, but their involvement in this film would have been more impactful if their characters were developed prior to Civil War. I wouldn't have cared if they died because there was hardly any scenes to grow and care for them. But what do Marvel know about consequences? There's some weird romance plot between Captain America and Sharon Carter, which is just...
Margaret Carter was known to most as a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I just knew her as Aunt Peggy.
Yeah, I don't know what Marvel were thinking here, but then again, when did they ever think? I mean seriously, why are they killing each other over this? I'm very concerned about their mental states. We move into the weird and mystical with Doctor Strange, or how I learned to stop caring and just hate Marvel. Dr. Stephen Strange is much more like Tony Stark, only he's a lot more arrogant and actually quite selfish. The magic we see in this film is like an acid trip. Not that I know what it's like, it's just an example. The story is told at a really quick pace that leaves very little development in Stephen's arc. The threat of Caecilius and whatever the hell that thing was at the end.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
What is happening?
It was all very Saturday morning child cartoon villain of the week for me. No substance or depth, and that was down to the pacing of this film. The humour is really flat in this one. I don't get why Marvel tried to ham-fist comedy in these movies. If you're gonna do that, then hire some writers, which is something they haven't done since Guardians. It's been copy and paste since then. The effects and exposition of the different dimensions were all very well done, which kept me entertained for the most part. The performances were solid, although there was a lot of controversy in the casting of the Ancient One. The Ancient One is supposed to be Tibetan in the comics. The only thing Marvel got right was the head. As much as I enjoyed Tilda Swinton's portrayal as a Celtic mystic, well then what was she doing in Nepal? Apparently Marvel wanted to avoid the typical stereotype of having a wise Asian man as a teacher to guide the protagonist into achieving greatness. But the way I saw it was that Marvel thought they were too good for the comics and that they could do something better. Shame on you. Overall, this movie missed a lot of opportunities with the script because everything just felt far too rushed. we move to what was my most anticipated movie of Phase 3. Guardians of the Galaxy was the most refreshing and sharp entry to the MCU, so seeing the lovable misfits on the silver screen for a second time was always going to be worth my money.
It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head.
Yeah, this one didn't really deliver. There was plenty of moments that made me laugh, and the chemistry of this cast is far superior to the Avengers. The Avengers are protecting Earth? That's cringe! Talk to me when you're protecting the galaxy. This movie feels quite stale in comparison to its predecessor. It focuses on Star-Lord looking for his father, which was set up in the first film. But what we got was mostly disappointing because the reveal of Egon's true intentions weren't surprising, since there wasn't actually a villain established from the start. There was no threat apart from these weird gold people who sucked, by the way. Their scenes were the only part of the movie that I didn't laugh, and when I don't laugh, I get angry. And when I get angry, I take a whole bag of crystal meth and shove it up my. They explore a deeper connection with the characters through good intentions, and the ambitious combination of humour and action is admirable, but sometimes it's too much. And the plodding third act is something that's become traditional for Marvel. So we move to everyone's favourite superhero, the one you dream of becoming, Iron Man, featuring an annoying version of Spider-Man.
Shut the fuck up!
I'll be honest, I don't hate this Spider-Man, but he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to play with the big leagues.
No, not exactly.
Spider-Man was my favourite superhero growing up, and that was down to the Sam Raimi films. I personally think that Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man, and after seeing Homecoming my opinion has not been swayed. When I saw the trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming I wasn't particularly excited, mainly because it was from Marvel Studios, but also because of the tone. The high school element was not for me, and that's because it didn't capture the struggles of what Peter Parker endures in the comics. Flash Thompson is in this. Why? He doesn't even do anything to challenge Peter Parker. His character is completely pointless. What made Spider-Man so popular was the fact that he was your average high school kid, having to deal with bullies all his life until he was able to stand up for himself. When he did have the power to beat bullies, it was now about understanding his limit, and, how do I say this without saying the obvious?
You had a moral obligation to do those things.
Yeah, that's the one. We got none of that in this movie. When I rewatched this, I completely forgot that Iron Man was in this, and I think Robert Downey Jr. has as well. I don't believe or relate to this Spider-Man because the way he acts is just unrealistic. This is how the writers think young people act. Oh, what are the kids into these days? Well, they're always on their phones. A lot of this movie feels light, but the humour, oh my god, man.
Spider-Man.
And Peter's friends, I just couldn't, guys. I'm sorry, I couldn't. The actors are really trying, and that's difficult when the writers and director clearly don't give a shit. This movie just felt like the junior channel of Marvel. Alright, so Thor Ragnarok. I would say this is my favourite of Phase 3 and quite a surprising one considering how bad the previous two Thor films were. This movie has a very different tone, showcasing a lot more comedy. Very similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what, it's straight up a carbon copy. Although I enjoyed the change of tone in this one, the narrative did feel a bit shaky, especially in the middle. I felt that the plot point in Sakaar could have been a lot better, and too much time was spent there when the real villain was starting to become a second story. Hela was a really cool villain that deserved a lot more time. I get that they had to get Hulk back, but it could have been done a lot quicker. Again, the dynamic of Thor and Loki is really well done and perhaps should have warranted even more screen time.
Get help! Help him!
We got some cool and quirky characters like Korg, who was actually played by the director himself. Doctor Strange's cameo was great, though the logic of Thor not knowing about Odin's whereabouts didn't make much sense. Strange said that because he didn't have a phone, but Strange could have easily teleported to Asgard. He's one of the most powerful heroes in the MCU. Sometimes the humour doesn't always work, but the pacing and energy overfills this flaw and produces an entertaining experience full of new and exciting mythology. Okay, Black Panther. Here we go. Now before I share my humble opinion on this movie, I used to watch a show called Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. A great show, by the way, that's far superior to the Marvel films. My favourite character was Black Panther in the show. His fight sequences were really well done, his arc was full of emotion and weight that made me really root for him through the show. He was amazing and I would always wonder how he would turn out in a live action film.
Wakanda, man, kill this clown.
Nani?
What we got was an unintelligent and clueless version of Black Panther, and that's not down to the acting, it's down to the story. Why are they in Korea? What am I watching, a James Bond film? Alright, So we start off in Oakland, California? Why is this turned into a hood movie? This has nothing to do with America. The movie felt way too political to a point where it felt obnoxious. I get it. They are right about Western nations stealing thousands of African art and artifacts during the colonial years. But I don't want to hear it from a smug guy with fake glasses and a moronic hairdo. The visual effects were not good in this one. From the city of Wakanda to the awful final act, you could tell how glaringly obvious that there was a green screen during the ceremony. A lot of the film really dragged. The main antagonist is another disposable villain from Marvel's archive, but for some reason he was really well praised, but to me he was just a dick. Let's talk about the comedy in this one, because not only was it unfunny, it felt like an attack. The usage of meme humour by T'Challa's annoying sister was unbearable to endure.
What are those? Why do you have...
I guess what baffles me most about this film is that it was nominated for multiple Oscars, including Best Picture. The first superhero movie to ever receive this nomination. Not even The Dark Knight could do that, but Black Panther could. I wonder why. I can understand it getting Oscars for costume design and production design, but Best Picture? How is this any different to Iron Man and Captain America? The movie also won for Best Original Score. How does that happen?
Black Panther.
So overall this movie was pretty average, and it was a shame because the potential was so high. But Marvel had to come in and stamp their mark on the project, which is just Kevin Feige's excrement. So that's the first part of Phase 3 wrapped. I don't expect much from the second batch, but at least we're a step closer from ending this pile of misery.